Hey guys, today we're in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 4. Chapter 4 begins with Samuel telling all of Israel that they need to go into battle. Now what's interesting is as you read this in the Hebrew language, it is very certain to say that it's not Samuel sending them into war. But the Philistines actually come up and kind of provoke them, and the Lord told Samuel, hey, they need to go. It's time to do something. And so it's not just Samuel just willy-nilly telling him to go, but this is because of an attack, and the Lord wants them to do this. And so Samuel tells them to go, and they go against the Philistines. Now, we've talked a little bit about the Philistines in the book of Joshua, but we need to have a better idea of who the Philistines are. The Philistines are a group of people from the island of Crete. That's kind of where they lived, and it wasn't until Israel started to take over the Promised Land that they started to come over from the island of Crete, sailing eastward and landing in what we would call today the Gaza Strip. Okay, so if you're looking at Israel, they're right on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea in the Gaza Strip today, and a little eastward of the Gaza Strip today. They lived in 5 city-states or 5 main cities. But what's interesting about the Philistines are because they're from Crete. Crete was a Cretan island. And so they had learned some things from the Grecian army at that time. And so when the Philistines come to the Promised Land, come to Canaan, they are the first people to have and know how to use and work iron. They learned this from the Grecian army when they were on the island of Crete. So when the Philistines come over, not only do we learn that they're bigger in size, but they also know how to use and to work iron, which makes them some of the first people in the Promised Land that can use iron. Well, what does that mean? Well, they had superior not only weapons like spears and swords, but they could make helmets, they could make better shields, they could even make chainmail. So when you take that army against a bunch of farmers with some tools, well, you can see as you will continue to read, the Philistines just become a powerhouse that Israel cannot seem to get rid of. And the tools, iron is one of them. Okay, it's one of the reasons. Their size is another. They're just better warriors. They want it more than Israel does at most times. But when we read about these battles, it's not just people against people. It's really an unfair advantage. So Israel has way more people than the Philistines. But the Philistines are just better with better tools and better safety equipment, shields, chainmail, helmets, tools of that nature. So when you read about the Philistines, that's something you just need to have in the back of your mind, okay? Just to have that tucked away. That will become important as we continue to read through Samuel and we see what David and Solomon does to the Philistines. So the Philistines drew a line. Israel went against them, and Israel was defeated. Philistines killed about 4,000 Israelites, and Israel runs back home with their tail between their legs, right? They lost the war, and so they get home, and rightfully they knew something was wrong. They knew they needed something better than themselves. So the leaders said, hey, let's take the Ark of the Covenant. We need God to go with us. And it's a right thought. It's a right sentiment, just executed in a bad way. Now, we have seen before the Ark of the Covenant carried into certain battles. Okay, just a few, but we've seen that before as we've read through. But in those battles, God has told them to do that. We will see the Ark of the Covenant carried into battles again, even with Saul and David, which will later come in this book and the next. So it's not unheard of, but God didn't tell them to do that. So they knew they needed God. So they go in and they basically go to the priest. And we see here it's to the terrible sons of Eli, who doesn't stop them, allows them to raid the tabernacle. They take the Ark of the Covenant out. And now they're walking into war as if this is their good luck charm. They don't need to fight harder. They don't need more men. They don't need this or that. They got God. God will do it all. They just need to stand back and watch. And so as they bring the Ark of the Covenant from Shiloh to where they're having the war, it's about 20 miles, okay? Aphek is where the war is being happened, where the battle line is. It's about 20-mile walk, pretty easy walk, to be honest, kind of flat land. And so it comes into the camp one evening, and Israel is so excited. It says that they shout, even talks about that the earth resounded, or in your translation, it might even say that the earth shook. The Philistines heard this. The Philistines heard this, and they were scared because they've never heard anything like this. They've never heard such joy and excitement, and it scared the Philistines. What's interesting about that is it tells us something, that our joy and our excitement in the Lord can provoke the hearts of the lost that are around us. How excited are you for the Lord? How joyous are you for the Lord? This is kind of a check for us, right? That our excitement should bring excitement to others. But what happens is when the Philistines hear this and they get scared, notice what they say here. At the end of verse 9, or at the verse 9, it says, "Take courage and be men, O Philistines, lest you become slave to the Hebrews as they have been to you. Be men and fight." Even though they're scared, they become more courageous. They're kind of backed in a corner. And so here's one of the biggest reasons why they lost, right? Israel is going into a war and saying, God's going to fight. We don't have to do anything. And the Philistines are saying, man up. We're going to have to fight even harder than we did last time, right? So in times of fear, they don't get scared. They man up. They get courage. And that's what happens. That's what happened for Israel to lose again. So the Philistines fought. Israel was defeated again, not just defeated, but defeated terribly, so much so that 30,000 Israelites were killed. Remember, in the previous war, there was 4. Now there's 30. Israel, with God, with the Ark of the Covenant, with the throne of God, lost so much greater. And that's because they expected him to do everything. And I think that's us at a lot of times. We expect God to do everything, and we'll just sit back and kind of reap the miracles and the benefits. And that's not how God works. God has never told us to sit back. He's told us to have faith, and in that faith have actions, and to fight and to believe. And that's what we should do. But that's not what Israel did. So the Philistines' courage went up and Israel's went down, because all they did was trust in that God would do everything. And they got defeated. But notice in verse 11, we see a little prophecy come true, that the sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, has died. And if you remember last chapter, God told them told Eli that his 2 sons would die in the exact same day. And that came true right here in the war. They did. And so we see the rest of the chapter is the telling of this terrible news. And so a man runs back and tells Israel 20 miles. He runs back. He tells all of Israel. Israel is sad. They're grieving. And Eli, who is blind, right, he wants to hear the news. And he says, hey, what happened? What happened to my sons? What happened to the Ark of the Covenant? What's going on? And so he tells them, hey, we lost the war. Your sons are dead. And the Ark of the Covenant has been been captured, has been taken by the Philistines. And at that moment, Eli was a fat man. Okay, that's what the Bible says. He was a fat man, and he fell off his seat, rolled backwards, snapped his neck. He was old, and he died. And not only was that bad enough, but then we see the wife of Phinehas, who was pregnant, not only her husband died, that Israel lost the war, 30,000 Israelites have died, they've lost the Ark of the Covenant, her father-in-law has died, but it caused her to go into labor early. And normally that's a joyous thing, okay, that a Jewish woman would have a baby, but here it is not. And we see that because she names the child Ichabod. And the name Ichabod simply means that the glory has departed from Israel. The glory of God is gone. So this is not a good name. This is a name that this boy will forever be remembered of this day when the glory has left Israel. Because of the ark of the God has been captured, because Eli has died, and Phinehas and Hophni has died, and 30,000 soldiers of Israel has died. And so the glory departed from Israel, and the ark of God had been captured. So the most holy thing on the planet no longer belongs to Israel, but belongs to pagans of Philistines. Hope that makes a little bit more sense, and we will see you tomorrow in chapter 5. God bless.